Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate survival tool walking stick. So right away when you see this walking stick, you might notice that it has neon paracord on it and the handle of it has a compass at the top, and you might think, oh, that's kind of neat. But what if I told you that this stick includes a compass, a whistle, kindling, fire starter and striker, 2 screwdrivers, 2 knives, 2 saws, 2 bottle openers, 12 band-aids, 5 iodine swabs, an eye mask, earplugs, toothbrush, toothpaste, jute string, a pen, 14 yards of fishing line, 2 hook lures, 4 spring hooks, 2 needles, 7 threads, and 5.5 yards of glow-in-the-dark paracord. Let me tell you how I made it. So first of all, I bought this stick on a website called Temu, and I don't know how you feel about buying from Chinese websites, but I did. Anyways, I bought mine for about $22. Now it's $20, so that's cool. You'll save $2 from what I bought. But you can also find this same item on eBay for about $37. So, between $20 and $40, you can find this walking stick. It includes the compass, the whistle, the 2 knives, the 2 screwdrivers, and so that's what it comes with. But I added the other stuff because there's a lot of wasted space inside the tubes. So let me show you how and what I added into my stick. This is the whole thing taken apart. You see that the stick comes in sections. Each section is just under 8 inches long. The whole stick is about 41.7 inches tall. I am 5'5", so this is a good height for me. It's actually slightly tall for me, but if you are 6 foot or above, you might need to add another section to yours, which is good news because then you can stuff more stuff into your walking stick. But anyways, I'm just giving you an idea. So it's about 42 inches tall and I'm 5'5" and it works for me. So you can adjust that to your specifications. All right, so let me go in section by section. First of all, the top of it is the compass. It also has the handle coming out of it. And then inside the compass, this screws together. The top of it screws into the whistle. The whistle is a nice metal whistle, and let me show you what it sounds like. So it's got a good loud sound to it. I prefer a metal whistle to a plastic whistle because it's a lot more intense and less breath makes a louder sound. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of breath to make a loud sound is what I mean to say. So I like a metal whistle, and that is included in the stick. On the handle, you see that I have wound a bunch of neon paracord. So the reason I did this is my husband gave me this idea. He told me, the stick is cool and everything, but one thing that you might want to do is add a bright color in case you drop it and you can't find it. So that's a good point. I got this paracord on Temu for about $2. It's 5.5 yards, and it's not only neon, but it glows in the dark. So that's really nice. So I'm showing you this to give you an idea that 5.5 yards will wind around a stick that's roughly 1 inch in diameter up to about 7 inches. So just to let you know, 5.5 yards will give you 7 inches of a handle. And I didn't know how to do this, so I looked up a video on YouTube. There's like multiple videos on YouTube. Just type in making a paracord handle walking stick, and there are a plethora of videos to show you how to do this. Basically, you just do a slip knot multiple times, and it gives you this nice spiral handle, which is nice for gripping, but also, paracord is always handy to have. And I've told you the reason that I've done this, so I'm going to move on. All right, so this, again, this knife blade came with the walking stick. You can see it has a bottle opener and a saw and a knife blade. This can also screw into the bottom of the whole stick and you can make a harpoon. So that's really nice. It screws into the bottom of this section, or that's how I have it screwed in to the bottom of the section. I want you to see though that there's a rubber ring at the top of the thread. That's really nice because it makes the whole stick waterproof. So everything inside your stick is going to stay dry in case you drop it in the river or something. Also, because it's waterproof, it will allow your stick to float, so it won't drop to the bottom. So that's nice as well. Okay, inside this section, I have a bunch of dryer lint. Dryer lint makes excellent kindling to start a fire. You could buy those little fire starter kits. It's like thick rope, about 3-inch sections of rope that you can fray and unwind and make kindling, but you don't need to buy kindling. You already have kindling in your dryer. Side note, always clean out your dryer lint because if you let it collect, you can start a house fire. So, because dryer lint is highly flammable. So always clean your dryer lint out, but don't throw it away. Put it in a little baggie next to your dryer, and then whenever you go camping or backpacking or hiking, you can take a little bit of it and start a campfire. So that's nice to have. So all I do is I just grabbed a bunch of dryer lint and took a pen, and first I screwed this knife in to stop the tube as a stopper, and then I just took a pen and shoved a bunch of dryer lint into this section of my stick. And then in the top of that, I have my magnesium stick fire starter. So obviously this is self-explanatory. This whole thing screws together into one piece. But when you need to use it, you have your magnesium stick there, and then you take the bottom and screw it into the striker, and then you have a good handle on your striker. So that's in the top part of my tube right here. Now to keep it from rattling around, because there's nothing more annoying than having a rattling walking stick while you're hiking, you can just stick a bunch of dryer lint around the magnesium stick and then it won't rattle. And that gives you some extra kindling as well. All right, so that's that section. The next section is my first aid kit. So I managed to shove 12 Band-Aids into the bottom of this part of the tube. First, this is my second knife. This screws onto the bottom of that section. So all you have to do is screw that part on and shove all those Band-Aids into the bottom section. And then the top part of the tube, I've managed to fit 4 iodine swabs. I'll show you at the end of the video how I finagle that around the blade, because this blade up here, this blade is sticking into half the tube. So you want to make sure that you finagle these iodine swabs around the blade, or else the blade will puncture them and then it defeats the whole purpose. These iodine sticks I also found on Temu for I think about maybe $2 for 100 of them. And they're really handy because they are minimalist, but obviously if you get a cut or a wound of some kind, you need to sterilize it. So each one of these sticks is individually packaged. All you have to do is break it at that red line and dump the iodine on your wound and then swab it with the other end. So it's a really neat little contraption for wounds that you may acquire on your hike, and or if you get stranded and you have a cut or something, So yeah, anyways, self-explanatory. Next section. Now you might think this is silly because in this section I've twisted up and shoved an eye mask. Now, I know you probably, if you're a bug out person or a prepper or anything like that, you might think, oh, what a stupid item to have in your survival pack. Because, if you're having to spend the night somewhere, you want to have your wits about you. You probably don't want to cover your eyes. But the reason I have this is because in a survival situation, part of what determines whether you're going to survive is your health. And for me, one of the ways I stay the most healthy is getting a lot of sleep. So if I can find a place that is a safe place to sleep, I want to make sure that I get really good sleep. And for me, that means having a dark environment and having a quiet environment. So you're going to see in the next section, I also have earplugs. So again, you might want to skip the eye mask and the earplugs because you don't think that that's very useful. Well, that will give you a whole section of free space that you could stick something else in this space. But at the end of this tube, this is my screwdriver connection. So that goes into the end of that tube, and you can see in that hole, that's where you stick the screwdriver attachment, which I will show you in the next part. So here's the screwdriver attachment. So you see there's a Phillips head and a flat head. The reason I don't have it stuck into that part is because it tends to fall out and rattle around. So I worked it in with my oral hygiene section, and that way it doesn't rattle around. Now, I got this eye mask and the earplugs and the toothbrush and the toothpaste whenever you travel on, well, this one was Delta, but anytime you take an international flight, especially an overnight flight, they'll give you a little comfort pack, and it usually has an eye mask and earplugs and a toothbrush, and sometimes it'll give you like little paper slippers or socks or something. So I just took one of those that I didn't use, and I just stuck the items into my walking stick. So that's what that is. That's why you normally travel toothpaste is not this small, but in the Delta pack, it's this little tiny, tiny tube of toothpaste. Now, I have talked to an oral surgeon, and he told me that toothpaste is actually irrelevant. To have good oral hygiene, what you mostly just need a toothbrush to make sure that you keep your teeth clean. The reason, and again, this might be a luxury item that you think is silly, but to me, part of surviving is good health, and oral hygiene is part of having good health. So making sure that your teeth are clean before you go to bed at night that's half your battle for staying healthy out in a survival situation. Now you'll also see that I have this tube of thread. These come in sewing kits anywhere. You can buy these anywhere, like Dollar General, Walmart. You can find them online. But they have these tubes that have thread twisted around them, and I put 2 sewing needles. You never know when you're going to need thread and a needle, and especially in a survival situation, I bet if you're in a survival situation, I bet your clothes are ripped. Okay? You might have fallen or something like that. So this will help you fix your rip in your clothes. Also, you'll notice I do have a toothbrush, but I didn't pack floss. And so my thread is going to double as floss in case I need it. You could also, I know that they make those little things called plackers. You can get them at like Dollar Tree, I think, 50 in a bag for $1 or something, maybe 25 now because they're cheap. But you might be able to stick a placker in there. I'm not sure, it might be too wide. But anyways, there's your little oral hygiene kit. And I fit another iodine swab. You can fit those iodine swabs in a lot of like wasted space in your pack. They fit really nicely because they're small and thin. All right, and then that's that section. The last section is my fishing section. So you see that I have 2 fishing lures and 4 spring hooks. You always want to bring more than 1 hook because you're probably going to lose your first several. You're going to lose a hook if you go fishing. But what I like about these spring hooks is that they maximize a small amount of bait. So I don't know if you have like a sandwich with you or bread or like a granola bar or something. You can take crumbs and roll the spring around in the crumbs, and you can utilize a small amount of crumbs as your bait. Same thing with, this is kind of gross, but if you find an earthworm, versus using 1 earthworm at a time and then losing it, you could, this is gross, but you could smash up your worm and roll the spring hook around in it and use 1 worm multiple times. So that's a nice little thing to have. And this is a pen. You never know when you're going to need a pen, but you'll see that I've wrapped the cap in fishing line. And so let me just tell you, I know for a fact, because I measured this, I have I have over 14 yards of fishing line on the cap of this pen, and I taped it down with this black duct tape to keep it from unwinding. But that's a lot of fishing line, and I can use the whole stick itself as a fishing pole. So, that's nice too, because the walking stick is really strong versus using a stick that you found on the path or, in the forest. They're not always straight and sometimes they break. So the whole stick itself can be used as kind of a fly fishing pole. Obviously you don't have a reel, but anyways, that's nice to do. And it gives another multiple use to your walking stick. And then the whole pen is covered in about 3 to 4 layers of jute string. And the reason I use jute string is because, number one, I already have paracord. But jute is not as strong as paracord, but it's still pretty strong. And you're probably going to need more than 5 yards, I have 5.5 yards on my handle of paracord, and this is just extra string. The reason I have jute is because versus just regular string that's really thin, you could bring that, but jute is a little stronger than regular string. It's not as strong as paracord, but it is stronger than regular string. Plus, you can cut it apart and fray this for kindling as well. So multiple uses. You can find jute string at Dollar Tree as well in the craft section. So another thing you could do, my husband does this. Anytime he hikes, he always takes a Sharpie that he's wrapped a bunch of duct tape around. That's a really good thing to have as well, because you never know when you need duct tape. And Sharpie is really good too. It's always good to have a pen or a Sharpie or something to make a note, or you never know what you'll need it for. So anyways, I just think that's pretty cool, and I would manage to fit all of that into my stick. Now, one last thing, because, you might not want the eye mask, you might not want earplugs, there might be something in here that you think is dumb and you would leave out. So just to let you know, you have 8 inches of space in this section, about 8 inches there, 8 inches there, but then the last 2 sections don't have a stopper in between them. Okay, so you have up to just under 16 inches of length there to work with. I'm just giving you ideas, okay? And the diameter of the stick itself on the outside diameter is about 7/8, but the inside, the inner dimension is about 6/8. So just over 1/2 inch of space on the inside of the tube. So whatever you can finagle into these tubes, that's how much space you have to work with. So obviously I've shown you can fit a lot of stuff in there. After I put my whole stick back together, I realized that I could fit a little baggie of aspirin, and these are 81 milligram tabs. So there's over 12 doses of aspirin in there. It's always good to have a painkiller on hand when you're hiking, because you never know if you're going to sprain your ankle, or sometimes your joints can get inflamed. I don't advocate taking painkillers regularly, but in a survival situation, it comes in handy. You might get a headache or something. It's always good to have that. So yeah, I fit that in. So at the very end of all of this, I was able to fit not just the list you see here, but 5 more iodine swabs after I put my thing back together. 5 more iodine swabs and a baggie of over 12 doses of aspirin. So that's quite a lot of stuff. What I like about my stick, I'll tell you what I like about my stick at the end. So this is how I finagle the iodine swabs around the blades. So I fit like 2 iodine swabs around the side of the blade before I screw it in, and that way the blade doesn't puncture the swabs. I fit 2, but I bet you could fit 3 on either side, but I just didn't do that. Anyways, gives you some idea. Now, the whole pole itself, what I like about it is it's very unassuming. So when you're out hiking, people aren't going to know that you have all this stuff inside your stick. Not that they need to know, but it's very unassuming. What I like about it too is I like to have my immediate necessities in my bag, This stick I'm only going to use in a survival situation. So during a hike or whatever, I'm moving. The stick I'm going to use if I have to be sedentary and I have to hunker down or something. So that's when I'm going to take this whole thing apart, is if I have to spend the night. Another idea, if you wanted to skip like the eye mask and the earplugs or something, if you could get one of those Mylar blankets and somehow twist that up, that would be a really good thing to put in here as well for a survival situation. Anyways, I like to have all my like survival-y stuff in my pole and then keep my immediate needs like my water and my hiking food and, flashlight, and I have other knives in my bag. So keeping all those things in the bag, but just the survival necessities in my stick. I like that idea because it kind of separates, so you're not carrying everything in your bag, And so anyways, I just think that's kind of neat. Now, how much does it weigh? It weighs just over a pound, 18.5 ounces, with all the stuff in this list that I had right here. Okay, that includes everything in this list. 18.5 ounces. So that is heavier than like an ultralight walking pole, but the other advantage of having it being a little heavier is if you are attacked, it has more heft to it than an ultralight walking pole. I mean, you could do some damage if you hit somebody over the head with a stick, So that's nice. Again, it doubles as a fishing pole, and I don't know. What other ideas does this give you? So leave some comments about other things that you might put into your walking stick. I'll just be honest, I'm very bad at answering questions and comments. But the reason I say leave a comment is because maybe somebody else might need your idea. So if you leave a comment, somebody else can see that. If I have time, I will try to answer your question if you have a good one, but no promises. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope this gives you a good idea.